Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to our ILA Marketing Forum November Friday Roundtable. It's a minute after 11. We've got a good amount of people who are attending. And just as a reminder, when you come in, you can mute yourself and turn off your camera. And at the end, we'll take questions and you can unmute and turn off your camera for questions at the end. My name is Andrea LeBlanc. I am the communications manager at Palatine Library, and I'm also this year's ILA Marketing Forum Manager. So I'm just really excited about this topic this month. We thought it was really an important thing to talk about, and we've got some great speakers that have joined us. We had a little bit of trouble getting some people, so I'm really excited that finally we've got people from a bunch of libraries to share with us what they're doing for EDI. You know, it's diversity, equity, inclusion, or the other way, EDI. It's really on everyone's minds, and I think we do need some time to share with each other about what we're doing in our libraries, how it's integrated into marketing communications. So yeah, I think this is a really great topic, and please, again, don't be shy if you have questions. We can all share from each other's experiences, and this is supposed to be a little bit more informal than going to a webinar or anything like that. So imagine that we're just all kind of sitting together chatting about this subject. First of all, we're going to have our first speaker. Her name is Cindy Khatri. She's from Downers Grove Public Library. She's the public relations manager there, and she's going to talk about their library's framework for writing and releasing anti-hate statements and their EDI work. And then we're going to hear from Christina McPhail. She is the programming coordinator at Grange Park Public Library, and she's going to talk about their library's inclusivity toolkit. And then we're going to have two folks from Northbrook Public Library. We've got Linda Vering, who is the marketing and communications manager there, and also from Jane Hugh. She's the content specialist at Northbrook Public Library, and so they're going to talk about she's going to talk about their library's EDI plan. So we're just going to go ahead and get started with Cindy.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy. And first, thank you for all joining us today. I'm really excited about this. This is something I'm really passionate about, and our library is taking very seriously. So I'm more than happy to answer tons of questions via email too, if you think of them like after today's talk. So before we get started, I wanted to start with a quote from Yo-Yo Ma, because this is how we really like to approach all of our kind of communications and our EDI work. And it is, quote, "Ultimately, what I love about a beginner's mind is that you get to be receptive to what's around you. It allows you to be present without judgment." And so I invite everybody today to kind of come to this discussion about EDI work just without judgment, without assuming previous knowledge, because we're all learning and we're all on this journey together. So at Downers Grove, we do use EDI instead of DEI, and that's for three reasons. The first is because, one, I wanted to avoid typos. I didn't want anyone to accidentally type die, which has happened to other partners that I've seen. A lot of the other organizations in our area also use EDI, so it's more familiar to our patron base. But most importantly for us, equity is really significant and important in Downers Grove. They really care about what's fair. And so to make this a little bit more palatable for people who are scared by the idea of EDI, we wanted to start by putting equity first. So all of our stuff can be found on our website as well. So we do have an equity, diversity, and inclusion webpage and a land acknowledgement page on our website if you wanted to check that out. So at DGPL, we are working with a consultant, and I highly recommend doing so if your library isn't. It is just great to have a third party that's really like neutral and can be a new perspective. And it also levels the playing field and kind of releases that power. So individuals who might not normally have a seat at the table for the decision-making process can still bring their observations and their thought processes to everybody's attention in a way that they're not afraid of any kind of retaliation. So even though we do have that consultant, the staff is very much involved in the work that we are doing. So we do have an equity advisory team, and which I am on, and that's comprised of staff members, community members, and HIT MPGs. And so a HIT MPG is like a term that I'll be using a lot today probably. And that's a historically, intentionally, and traditionally marginalized people group. So BIPOC individuals definitely fall into that group, but so do individuals who are part of the LGBTQ community, people who might have disabilities. This is anybody who might be in that marginalized people group. So this year for us has all been about learning and creating a shared language. And that's especially important in my department, where we're doing a lot of the outreach to individuals, right? We're doing a lot of the communications. So we need to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we mean when we say something like white supremacy culture or EDI. So that way we're all making sure that we're respecting what everybody's saying, we're on the same wavelength, and that we're able to read for sensitivity as well. So all of this to say, it's really important to have a team of people that is ready for the work and ready to support the staff through the process, because even creating a shared language is really a daunting process. And so I highly just recommend making sure that everybody kind of goes in with their eyes wide open. So in all of our marketing efforts, we really try to incorporate equity and an EDI lens to what we're doing. And so we have an equity decision-making tool, which I will share with you right now. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. So this is just a tool that we have at the library that really helps us with all of our decision making. This isn't just for my department, this is for everybody. And these are really questions that we encourage our staff to ask ourselves when we're making a decision that can impact internal and external library services. So the first question is, how is my decision being influenced by white supremacy culture? And that's kind of like a scary term, white supremacy. I know the first thing that comes to a lot of people's minds is like KKK, burning crosses. Like it seems really, gets you really defensive and oof. But really what we mean by white supremacy culture are like the systemic systems that have been built up in our culture that really suppress and are harmful to marginalized people groups. It's just white supremacy is the idea that individuals who are white are superior, right? It doesn't have to be the big scary KKK to be white supremacy. So if white supremacy culture is really running rampant in this decision, we invite everybody to come and talk to our equity advisory team. Is a HIT MPG being directly harmed or indirectly harmed by my decision? If it is, how can we turn that into an active allyship? And so I do have an awesome allyship resource that I'll share in the comments. And I also have a characteristics of white supremacy culture resource that I can share as well. Who has a voice in the decision-making process besides me? And so if we're making a decision alone without any HIT MPGs in the room, we should consult the equity advisory team and share the power in the process. Invite other people in, right? We're very collaborative here at DGPL, and we find that when we're working together, everything comes out stronger. And then, of course, how does our decision affect other staff members and community members in the short and the long term? So if it doesn't create a safe and supportive environment equitably for all staff members, then we should take a step back and reevaluate our decision. And so really this framework it's really just a tool to help us understand and think through the consequences of our decision, and to just kind of just give ourselves a moment to pause. And so I'm going to stop sharing right now. And so that we use that when we are creating our anti-hate statements. So we do have a completely separate framework for our anti-hate statements, which can be found on our website. And I know we don't have a lot of time today, so I'm really going to just be going through through a bit of it, but the whole thing is available for you to go through if you'd like to. So we do invite patrons to look at this as well, that framework for our anti-hate statements, because it really helps everybody understand why we're doing this and how these are being written and where we're making our decisions. So it was really important for us to create the context and the transparency for not only our patrons, but our staff as well. And we want our stakeholders to understand the whole thought process too. We want everyone to be on the same page. So the way it's organized is we have the 5 W's and the H, but I'll just be going through the who, how, and where for us today. So when we're writing anti-hate statements, it's really important for us to think about our audience, as it is for all of our communications, right? And when we're talking about who is our audience, we really want to focus on the affected HIT MPG, and the community in crisis when we're writing these. The goal is to show our support in our statement. We invite everybody else who is not part of that affected group to learn about the issue, to reflect on what would have caused the library to issue a statement, and to consider like the harmful narratives behind what's going on. But the statement is really to show support for that group. It's not for everybody else. And I know that that sometimes is hard as the marketing department for a library to kind of really just be speaking to one small group. But, you know, that's really important because we want to make sure that this community feels seen and validated. So how to write a statement is, that's a lot to talk about, but the big broad strokes is really that we want to make sure that we are not hollow in our statements, that they're not performative. And that's a really difficult thing to accomplish when you're really not sure how to start and you see a lot of people like sharing theirs. And so some rules of thumb to keep it from being really generic and from keeping it from being whitewashed is to really be authentic in your concern for that HIT MPG. Whoever is authoring your statement should carefully consider that community in crisis and where they feel seen and unseen, and how we can support them as a library. We want to make sure to name the specific issues at hand. By naming the problem, we are acknowledging the root cause of the harm to the community. So it's really important to make sure that we are acknowledging those issues. Additionally, we're acknowledging those harmful narratives that a lot of people are afraid to name. And that can go a really long way to making those individuals feel safe in your community. Of course, we want to show empathy for the families and community members that have experienced any kind of loss or a tragedy, and not just those community members, but also your staff members who might belong to this community in crisis. Make sure that you're reaching out to them and be an ally, right? Especially when writing these statements, it could be something that you want to maybe ask a person in that community to help you pen the statement. I would recommend against that because in that moment, that person might be in crisis, and it's a lot of emotional labor to author one of these statements in general. And if you are having to author a statement about your own community group, that is a huge ask. And so you could ask them, but be prepared for a no. All right, let's see. And of course, we want to provide a path forward for readers in your statements. So don't just simply say, oh, we support them and end it there. What can we do next? How can we move forward and progress? And how can you help everybody kind of understand what's happening? So we suggest resources, we create book lists that can be helpful. And of course, we like to share resources on how to be an ally. So I guess above all, do not copy and paste somebody else's statement. Don't use another organization's statement as your own or just point to theirs. That is really hollow and like just performative. And honestly, it can be more harmful to the community in crisis. Speaking for myself as an Asian American, whenever I see somebody copying and pasting a statement, I personally feel like they're just being lazy, and this is a box to be checked. And so if you are afraid of having this conversation, I would recommend that it is still better to write something, even if it's short and sweet, than to copy and paste somebody else's. And then, of course, when crafting the statement, just be really mindful of the characteristics of white supremacy. I'll share that resource for you, but we basically just don't want to shape a statement around the white community's comfort in the statement, because a lot of people are not have not started this journey yet. And again, these statements here at our library is not about the white community, it's about the community in crisis. So when we're writing it, we are not trying to ease anybody's white fragility here. Am I going too hard? Maybe. All right. So where do we post these? We post it on our website. So we'll have a banner on our homepage that invites people to learn more about our statement. And then it'll go to our statement on our equity, diversity, and inclusion webpage, where the full statement can be read, including a link to our framework so people can understand why we're issuing these. We also put it on our social media, and it's something that we like to do is like do a little abbreviated version and then link to it, because if you do a huge wall of text, people aren't necessarily going to read that. But if you do an abbreviated version and link to it, they'll people who are interested will go learn more. And then we do actually an entire separate e-newsletter out to our patron base, because this is ultimately coming from the director and the board of trustees for us. And we want to make sure that our patron base knows about it. So obviously we need to prepare for the feedback, and you will get feedback. So all of our feedback goes to the board and the administration, and that's a good thing. We want them to see everything. So for the good feedback, it's awesome. Make sure that you're responding. Those individuals who are showing your support after you issue a statement will be your best advocates moving forward with your EDI work. So make sure that you thank them for being in support, and you acknowledge that they're reaching out to you. Remember that any personal stories that are shared are not yours for marketing purposes in that moment. You need to ask if you can use those, because you will get some really intimate stories shared with you once you release a statement like this. So for negative feedback, it will come, and people will have some extremely hateful things to say, and that's okay. Remember that change is hard, and this is really scary for a lot of people of all backgrounds to look at the truth of some of these issues, and to even think about EDI is really daunting. And so there are a lot of people who haven't started their own journey yet and are not open to it and not going to understand what you're trying to say, and that's okay. But what we can do is give them the resources for when and if they're ready to start that journey, they'll be able to find those. So we reply to individuals who have a substantial comment, or anybody who asks for a response. So we typically have our director respond, since they are the face of the library, and that way we're showing the community, the BIPOC community or the HIT MPG community, and the staff members, that the full administration and board is behind this. And so in those responses, make sure to hold steady in your dedication. Don't backpedal. Point everything back to your mission statement and your purpose. So here at DGPL, it's a place for everyone to discover, grow, play, and learn. And so we really go back to how it's for everyone, right? And really point out how supporting one group does not mean that you are not supporting another or that you're against another. The either or thinking is something that we don't need to follow that, because just because we're supporting one, we're not taking anything away from another, right? We're just focusing on showing support for this one group. And of course, if all else fails, thank you for your feedback. Your response has been recorded and shared with our board of trustees, and just leave it at that. I do not recommend engaging in any kind of discourse in these emails. That would be better for maybe a community conversation event. And so you know, just the one answer and then you're done. And then of course, the impact of these statements is really incredible. You'll get great messages of support by community members that really feel seen and appreciated. We're making the library a place where they know that we'll stand up for them. They'll be safe and appreciated and accepted here. And we're inviting people who might not have come to the library before to join us. And, you know, we're also modeling the behavior that we hope to see and creating educational opportunities. So I know I'm like way over my time, so I'll stop here, but I'm happy to discuss further, and you can find the whole framework on our website.
Yeah, super. Lots of really great information, Cindy. And thanks for offering to share those resources. I'm really interested in looking further at your decision-making document there that you shared. So, and again, if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the chat, and then, you know, if you have something right on your mind right now, put it in the chat, and then we'll come back to it at the end. So, great stuff. Christina, you can go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina McPhail from the Grange Park Library, and I'm going to be talking about a really important project that has been in the works for the past few years at our library, and that is a staff toolkit for inclusivity. So we're kind of just starting the journey in EDI over here, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of the project and then show you some of what we have come up with. So in 2019, our library partnered with a nonprofit organization in the area called Aspire, and they assessed our library's level of diversity and inclusion. So they looked at our collection, programming, policies, the building itself, and its accessibility features. And they also surveyed patrons and staff to find out how inclusive and welcoming the library is. So they gave us this wonderful, concise report, and it had all of their findings in it and some suggestions for what to do. And what we discovered was that while there were some gaps and issues that needed to be addressed, overall, the library was pretty accessible. And we did have quite a bit in our collection and our services. But the problem was that there was a disconnect where people didn't know about any of it. So our staff and our community were unaware that we had all of these things to offer. And if that's what's happening, if people don't know that it's there, it's almost like not having it at all, because nobody's using it, nobody can talk about it, any of that. So our director and the department managers decided to create what they initially called the Disability Task Force, which was made up of volunteers from Children's Services, Adult Reference, and the Circulation Department. And that's where we come in. So we volunteered and we got together, and at our very first meeting, the first thing we decided was to change the name. To us, the wording made it sound like disabilities were a problem that needed to be addressed, which is not the case at all. What we were addressing was how the library can better meet the needs and wants of our community to make everybody feel welcome, valued, seen, and to ensure that everybody knew all the wonderful things that we had to offer, and to feel free to give us any suggestions so that we could make improvements and we could be the place that people can go to and feel like they belong. So also, while our initial focus in the task force was on disabilities, we also knew that eventually we would want to expand beyond that scope and to include lots of other areas of inclusivity. So that's why we changed the name to the Inclusion Task Force, or ITF, and we created a document. So we're going to go to, okay, so I'm going to share the screen now so you can see, this was our poster that we created, and it has some highlights from our document that we created. So as I mentioned, it's made up of staff volunteers from different departments. So we have Susan Fagan, who's a reference librarian, and she's here with me for support and interjections if necessary. I originally was working in both children's and adult reference. I'm now the programming coordinator. We have Melissa Holbrooks from Circulation and Lydia Robbie from the Children's Department. So our purpose statement, pause. Our purpose statement is to create a toolkit to help staff be better prepared to confidently handle questions and concerns related to serving our diverse community. So again, that's all about that disconnect. Our staff didn't know what we had, so we needed to make sure everybody was on the same page, that there was better communication, and that we knew how we could help people. Essentially, yeah, the goal is to communicate, make staff feel empowered and aware, and then also to let the community know. Because it's great if we all know what's going on, but our patrons are the ones that we want to feel welcome into the building. And if they don't know that we have something that might be useful to them, you know, we need to get that message out there. So we kind of did some of the same work that Aspire did, just at our own level here within the library. So the very first thing we did after changing the name was to do an inventory. So we looked at everything we already have, our accessible equipment, the technology, services, programs, resources, all of that good stuff. We wanted to see what we had in order to identify the gaps and things that we needed. And so I'm just gonna, oh, I might have to move you all actually. Okay. So when we did this inventory, we basically made a list, and then we were able to figure out again what we want and what we need. So some things were not, you know, at the top of the list, but they're kind of our wish list items, and that would be things like less visual clutter. We have made some changes. Our children's department had a very busy mural with lots of colors and is very overwhelming. So that's something we have worked on already. But we wanted more adaptive software, and increase in large print collections, things like that. But the needs is what we wanted to address first. And that's staff training, again, increasing the knowledge. We needed some Braille signage we didn't have, and some visual schedules for children, so they can feel more comfortable before they come to the library. And that's not just children, actually, that could be anybody, you know, who might feel like they want to be prepared before they come into the building, to know what to expect, where to find things, all of that good stuff. So after taking that inventory, we created an accessibility in the library tab that we put on the website. So this is a good place to let everybody know what we have. Do you want to click on it? Okay. It's going. Okay. So it looks like this. I know we're kind of in the way here. But just kind of a rundown of the stuff that we currently have. And this is something we're going to add to as we continue to make changes to the building and our collection and all of that. It's a little wordy. We will probably work on that, you know, make it more of a bullet list, but at least it's there. We got it out there, along with our social story, which is, that's okay. Which is, you know, that way for people to feel comfortable before they come into the library. So we're going to go back to our poster. Okay. So after we did our inventory, then we did research. You know, as Cindy had mentioned, everybody's learning. You know, things change, and we are imperfect human beings that can't possibly know everything. So it's good to be open and to keep finding what's out there. So we looked at some different topics, definitions, background information, community organizations, national resources, anything that we thought could possibly help our staff be more knowledgeable in this area. And then we took all of that stuff that we had done, and then we put it into an easy to use, searchable document, organized by topic that all staff would have access to at all times. So we're gonna, that way. I'm navigating, okay. So these are the topics that we started with. And again, this is just the very basic beginning of this project. So there's plenty of room for us to add more as we go, and that's in the works. So we have vision impairment, hearing impairment, neurodiversity, mental and behavioral health, mobility, homelessness, and care for seniors, women, and youth. How did we choose these topics? We started with the survey results from Aspire and some patron comments that had just come in. People had some suggestions and things. And then our observations of patron interactions. So because the task force is made up of staff that work the public service desks, between all of us, we have years of experience working with our community, and we can see some of the needs because we've interacted with the people that are using the library. So of course, the communities are always changing, and we're part of a big consortium. So we have people from all over that come to use the library. So we can't possibly plan for everything, but at least they gave us a start. So for instance, we do have a lot of older patrons that come in that have some, that are experiencing some vision impairment. So we knew right away that was one thing we wanted. And there are also some really amazing shelters and nonprofit organizations in our particular area. So, you know, especially for women and individuals experiencing homelessness. So a lot of times those individuals will come and stop by the library. So we wanted to make sure we had the resources available for them as well. So we've already gone beyond the initial plan of disabilities. So let's go down here. So each of those topics in our toolkit is organized with a description. What we have in the libraries are collection, equipment, building features. That comes from doing our inventory. Services we provide, online resources, and then community resources if available. So these are some highlights from the toolkit. It's a pretty large document. I want to say it's, yeah, actually, we'll see it right there. Yeah, I mean, it's getting close to 20 pages by now because we keep adding stuff to it. So this is kind of what it looks like. So thank you. That's good. So we have our table of contents, just so everybody can find things easier. And then we also have a key. It's right here. It's okay. We have a key that will indicate where that particular thing is located, whether it's a program that's being offered, something that's in the collection, or even just a piece of equipment, so that staff members know exactly where to find that particular thing. So then we're gonna go. Okay. So here's a sample of the first page, and this is vision impairment. It's our first section in there. It's not a touch screen. Bear with us. So there, we have a little definition. And then we have tips and resources, and that's a clickable link. Everything that's red and underlined is a link. So that would take you to an article or some other kind of resource that will give you more information on that particular topic. Then we have what's in our collection, and again, with the key telling you where it's located. Equipment that we currently have, services we provide, and then there's the online resources. And again, those are all links that'll take you directly to the website for those particular organizations. Yep, those are the links there. So there's our mental and behavioral health. And that we had some great like tip sheets and things that really broke down, because that's a pretty complex issue. And I know not everybody in our staff has a lot of knowledge about it or feels comfortable with it. So hopefully going through that will help. And then we have the community resources. So for some of these topics, there are organizations in the area that we can direct patrons to. So that's really great. And then as we go down a little bit more, we have some basic definitions and changing terminology, because this is something that is changing every day and expanding. And so we recognize that this is just a little bit, and we're going to keep adding to it. So just some helpful things about first person language and other things like that. And then at the end, we have the comprehensive list of community and online resources. So they are under each topic, but then all listed together at the end in alphabetical order. And it is searchable, it's in PDF format, and our staff members are also welcome to print it out. So if they prefer to have a paper copy, either way, whatever will make them feel more comfortable using that information. So then, how might a staff member use the toolkit? As I mentioned, we have quite a few patrons that have vision impairment. So if they are engaging with a patron, they might be able to direct them to our large print collection, inform them about audiobooks that we have, or some of the resources that are available as well. And they also feel empowered to provide information and resources to patrons who are experiencing a mental health crisis. And so, as I had mentioned, the toolkit is a live document. We don't need to update at this moment.
No, not right now.
So this is something that we're going to have to look at periodically and update, make sure all the links work, add to it. And as we mentioned, we want to expand the scope. So we're going to be including more sections as we go, but this was really just our starting point. So we're going to be rolling it out to staff. We're going to host a lunch and learn and present it to the Board of Trustees. And then it's going to be lifelong work, just constantly adding to it. So hopefully this will bridge the gap that we had and have our staff and community be better aware of what we have and the services we provide, and to know that we're fully committed to EDI. So I think that's it. We'll stop our sharing now.
Well, that was super. Oh my gosh, so much great information. I know that people would love a link to that, or if you would be willing to share that. So thank you so much for sharing all that. Okay, and then we're a little bit past 11:30, so we'll jump right into Linda and Jane. Go ahead and share what you'd like to share.
Hi, it's been really great to hear about the other libraries' EDI learning journeys. I know we're on our own, and I've already gotten some really great ideas, so thanks everyone for sharing. So here's where we're at. Last year, our library formed an EDI committee. It has about 17 staff from our 8 different departments, and they meet monthly. They have different subgroups. They discuss and plan programming, collections, everything from building design, translation ideas, staff training, just a whole wealth of information that they tackle. And they serve a really valuable role to us in terms of marketing, with helping us with questions that we have related to the EDI issues. And some of the things that the EDI committee helps us with in terms of marketing are answering questions about displays, images, colors, fonts, translations, accessibility, and even subject choice in terms of how we approach social media, special months, that I'm sure we all have those questions about. And even within our journey in the last few years, we have changed some of our ideas in terms of what we thought we were doing right, and then always looking for ways that we can do things in a better way. We really do try to focus all of our marketing and communications through that EDI lens, and the committee has been an invaluable resource when it comes to even helping with staff talking points and staff training. They help with programming, so they've really just become a very invaluable resource to us. And it also helps that it's coming from the top. So our executive director is very involved with the committee and really kind of driving things from that top level down. Our library board is also very committed and is interested in making sure that, we're continuing to do the good work that we're doing. We also really want to be really upfront with our commitments. So as another library discussed, when we put out statements, videos, resources, we really try to make that a large, very visual to the community in terms of a front page on the library newsletter, homepage treatment. We have an EDI page as well, and then we'll link from social media and email as well to really be very upfront and vocal about our support for the commitment that we have to EDI. And then in addition to our own internal staff resources, we also reach out to the committee or to the community and working with local community groups. We have one in this area called RAIN, which is Racial Awareness in the North Shore. And we work with them in terms of helping us, everything from helping us be part of the selection committee for choosing our One Book, One Northbrook community read title, to programming and just another sounding board for any information that we're putting out there. We're also in the process now of reaching out to the community to develop an advisory board of people that we will be able to choose to reach out to when we want that extra community pair of eyeballs on whatever we're doing. So Jane, who is our content specialist, is on the EDI committee here at the library, and she's going to talk a little bit about how the committee is playing a valuable role in terms of being our marketing resource.
Yeah, hi. So I joined the committee in January. It formed right around August 2020. So by the time I joined, this committee was already a functional group. And so I joined because, like, as a marketing person for the library, I thought it would be good to be closely attuned to the discussions and the concerns and feedback that staff are having in regards to how we communicate our EDI goals. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's really helped us as the communicators and marketers kind of refine and strategize more effectively. Yeah, so they are essential partners in, for social media strategies and other marketing ideas, which include staff displays and programs and services. So we meet every month. So I'm on the steering committee. And so we meet every month, and I bring up marketing plans and ask for feedback. So for example, with February's Black History Month, back in January or even late December, I would bring it up to let them know this month is coming up, and is there any insight or any ideas you want to offer? And they were very helpful. They really help to kind of help narrow the focus down a bit and bring a local focus to our marketing strategies, which I think is effective in kind of building the community's interest and making it a little more relevant. So they offered ideas and how we could highlight the Chicago Black Renaissance, which is a literary and artistic movement in the mid-20th century. So these were, local writers, Gwendolyn Brooks, Lorraine Hansberry, et cetera. And we were able to create a plan to promote this throughout the month. And same goes with the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. They were instrumental in helping us plan that, and the staff would create the record sets from our collection, curate movies for us that we can promote on social media. So just a couple examples right there. But I also do want to mention, I think it's worthwhile to think about, which is that this EDI group also helps me, as marketers, to not fall into the trap of, checking off a list, checking off a box and tokenizing groups when it comes to their quote unquote month. So I just think it's generally a good idea, if you have an EDI committee, to be involved with them and work with them as partners. So that's just been my experience. It's been great. I will pass it back to Linda if you have anything else.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of the things that we grappled with is how to handle holidays and when to post a social media post related to all of the different holidays. So our EDI committee was really great about coming up with this list of so many different holidays, really from so many different religions. And then we really had a deep discussion about our focus on whether or not to steer clear of any religious holidays, whether to pick and choose based on our community and you know, the most common holidays that are celebrated in the community. And I don't think that there's a 100% perfect answer for anything, but the way that we're currently deciding to go is to really focus on tying a holiday into an existing program that has been created, or a display, or a collection, rather than just having like a happy Hanukkah post. So we'll tie it into a program that we offered. Like, for instance, we just had a program on a cooking program that was tied into Hanukkah foods. And so and that's the way that, you know, we're tying in this Hanukkah post, and same with other posts throughout the year. We'll try to tie them into programs, or we'll try to tie them into something connected with the library or connected with the community. Jane, was there anything else that you wanted to discuss from that angle, or from anything going on in social media?
No, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that's a good point, because, you know, we're at the season where multiple different religious holidays are coming up. So that is something that we've discussed at length with the EDI committee. And it just helps to have like the buy-in and the a consensus with the rest of the group about what you're thinking. And that's a great example, the Hanukkah cooking class. We were able to highlight Hanukkah, not just out of the blue, but because it was tied with a program that we hosted earlier this week. So that's just an idea for, you know, how we can, you know, highlight holidays, certain holidays like that.
Okay, great. Are you guys, is that, I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That really resonates with me, that last comment about, you know, connecting it to what you're doing at the library with a display, or, you know, a program or something. So it doesn't have kind of that hollow feeling that, you know, Christina, you were talking about. So, all right, that was great. So much in my brain right now. I want to open it up to anyone who is attending that has a question. There's a couple things in the chat, but if anybody wants to unmute, or you don't have to put your screen on if you don't want, but go ahead and please ask your questions. Okay, Lucy, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My first question goes all the way back to the early in the presentation with the chart that we saw that can use as a guide for decision making. And what I'm wondering is, you know, obviously none of us wants to put on anything or have any, you know, anything that smacks of white supremacy. But so I'm wondering if it would be very, you know, have you come up with something that you went, wait a minute, this isn't right, and we didn't even consider this? I'm just curious what an example would be.
Yeah, I think that doing our land acknowledgement was a really extensive process for us at DGPL. And a good example of when white supremacy was kind of navigating the conversation was when we had taken our acknowledgement to the board, and we were having a discussion about like, where are we at, you know, how do we feel like this version is? And we, you know, some people were concerned about the term genocide in there and forced displacement, because it leaves like an icky feeling in people's stomachs. And there's a lot of concern about turning people off, you know, making people feel really bad about it. And you know, this was a moment where I felt like it was, you know, we were then shaping the statement around other people's comfort instead of really addressing the truth and then of the history. And so we really had to go back and talk about, by not naming those, what are we doing? We're perpetuating this like whitewashed narrative that is really harmful to Native communities. And, working with our Native partners, all of our partners said how important it was for us to name the genocide and the forced displacement. And so, kind of creating a statement, worrying about how people are maybe going to feel, it's a conversation to have, definitely. And here, I'll put in the characteristics of white supremacy that we use here at our library. And then let me find that allyship link for you as well. But that's just one example. Does that help?
That's a great example. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. And also, when you're talking about land acknowledgement, I've had a similar kind of question, like how do you say this thing? Because it is going to be heavy, but I think what you're saying is to have a conversation. At our library, I think we've talked about, well, we'll just put this land acknowledgement up, at the beginning of a program and have the staff person kind of present it. But it feels like to me that we would need a little bit of an intro and explanation instead of just like, here's this statement and, read it, and then we'll move on to whatever the program is about. Do you feel like that makes sense?
With like where to put your land acknowledgement?
Well, we do have it on our website, but some staff wanted to, like, at the beginning of a program, have a slide up that has the land acknowledgement. Yeah, but I feel like it needs a little bit of an intro rather than just here.
Well, and I feel like I don't think that there's one right answer, but we decided not to put it in front of programs unless it would be related, because we didn't want it to become something that people just tune out, and that would really be more, that would be more problematic, that then it becomes something that people are like, oh, that I don't need to even think about that. So we have plaques at both of our entrances that have a short version of our land acknowledgement, and then under one of our plaques we have a binder with the extended version, and it's pretty long, so if anybody wanted to read ours, you can find it on our website, but we do have like the extended version and the short version for that purpose. Okay. And then we also put it on our newsletter, like in our, actually I think I have one right here, like, oh, can you even see with this here? No.
No.
Well, I'll send everybody the PDF, but we do have it on our newsletter on the back page, right around, like right next to where we have our board listed. So it's there. And then we do have, we will announce it like at every board meeting and like significant meetings. We'll read it beforehand.
Great. That's helpful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And thanks for the links. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions they want to pop in? We have a link to the toolkit. Beth asked for that. That was great. Or I think that was Christina, you had a toolkit, right? Right? Yes, yeah, that was Christina.
Yeah, I just wanted to unmute myself. Yes, we were the ones with the toolkit. And so I just wanted to address the question in the chat about working with a consultant. So the toolkit came about as a result of working with Aspire. So they were our consultants in terms of determining if the library needed to continue their work in EDI, like in certain areas. But as far as the creation of it, the design, all of that came from us. Oh yes, I mean us as the library. We didn't have any outside consultants on the actual toolkit. I just forgot what I was gonna say. We did look at some other examples, but we found that they weren't usable in a way that we thought would work for our staff, which is why the design of it is very different from the ones that we had seen online.
Yeah, I really, it looks like it was a whole lot of work. So can you give us an idea of kind of like start to finish, how long, how many staff, how many people did you have kind of involved in putting that together?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of changes to our staff since the task force began. So we actually started off with like half the staff members were different. I would say the initial version of the toolkit took about 5 or 6 months to put together. And then it went to our marketing person who gave it a nice shiny layout and a more colorful design. But it's hard to say exactly how long that took because that was during the pandemic. And that one kind of went on the back burner because the library was closed and everything. So, I mean, I would say it was about a year of that. So probably a year and a half from very beginning to where we are now with it.
Okay, and I think you said that you were going to introduce it to staff and you're going to do a lunch and learn, like, so you're going to have like all staff day kind of thing?
I mean, they're usually about an hour. So we did present it at a meeting over the summer, but we didn't have a lot of time to go in depth with everything. So we are going to host a little hour-long lunch and learn where they can have snacks and then ask more specific questions, and we can really dive deep into the different elements of the toolkit.
Yeah, that's great. It's, you know,
Yeah, sorry, Susan just said, and to demonstrate some of the technology, staff might not know how to use some of the like accessibility features on some of our equipment. So it'll be kind of their opportunity to really ask what they need to know from it.
yeah, I really appreciate you guys sharing that because I know at our library, we have an EDI committee, but I think there is a disconnect between that committee and the rest of the staff to know, you know, all the resources and everything they're doing. So this is great. I'm gonna study it. All right, I think we've got some new question of land acknowledgement. Cindy shared that. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat. A lot of sharing stuff, which, you know, us marketers, we love that. But I really appreciate it. I don't remember who said it, but don't copy and paste. I really appreciated that. That definitely feels hollow. I think it was Cindy that said that. Don't copy and paste from somebody else's stuff. But it does help to kind of look at other people's stuff and get tone and ideas going in our minds when we're writing. So, all right, any other questions from folks? Okay, I know I've got a couple things on my mind. Cindy, I think it was you. You said that you send out, or maybe it was Christina. You guys send them out in, you send out these statements to members in e-news. Do you send it out with other information, or was it kind of a little bit of both? Were there times where you felt like we just need to send out this one message in to all our members and have it be kind of exclusive? You guys have any comments about that? How to share it with members in an effective way?
Yeah, well, we always have, at the very least, had book lists for people to learn more about everything at the bottom of our statements. And so it's really important to us to kind of create a therefore statement at the end of all of our statements of, so now that you've read this, what can you do? So people don't feel so like hopeless in reading it, as a community who wants to support each other. So giving everybody that kind of avenue to do something. So we'll frequently put book lists or like free webinar resources that are like I love to suggest the Hollaback bystander intervention one is like a really great resource. Highly recommend. So we'll put that on there sometimes. Or sorry, regardless of vaccination status. I can ignore my.
Wait, hang on. Was that a mask announcement?
It was.
Oh, that's a squirrel for me. Okay, keep going.
Sorry. I lost my train of thought, but we do add resources at the bottom of every statement. And so when we email it out, we link to all of those book lists and resources, just so everybody can immediately go into it. And so when we post our PDFs on our website too, we make sure that those links are live in the PDF so people can just click right through.
Okay, great. Oh, it's 12 o'clock, but I don't want to cut us short. If there's anyone else who wants to put a question in the chat or wants to unmute themselves. Okay, I think we're good. Probably just you guys all sharing sharing your links and everything is giving us a lot to chew on. Really appreciate all of you for sharing what your libraries are doing. It's really great work. It's really important work. And you know, it's going to continue and the research will continue, right? We'll have to keep our eyes focused on that and working with other staff in these EDI groups. I think it's really important. So yay. Just really quick, we will not be having a roundtable discussion in December just because December is busy, holidays and people taking time off, things like that. So we'll be sending out information on the on the ILA marketing forum website for January dates and discussion. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I hope everybody has a really great weekend. Thank you all again for attending. This might have been our highest attendance to date. I'm not sure. I'll have to check with Tamara after that. Oh, and if you're interested in the ILA marketing forum in any way, shape, you know, reach out to Tamara. She can give you some information and connect you all to the group. So thanks, everybody.